Hey folks, and welcome to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Today I just felt like doing a video about the current Leeds United squad, and with Leeds being top of the championship right now and definitely in a good position to potentially get promoted this season, I kind of thought to myself, out of the current squad, which of these players are currently Premier League ready? Which ones could potentially make the step up going into the new season? So just before I go into the details, I have to apologise. It is still pretty cold. Either that or I'm coming down with something. And I badly need a haircut, so I apologise for the awful hair. Nothing I can do about it. Need to get to my sister, she's a hairdresser. Anyways. So I've typed out the squad as far as squad numbers are concerned, and then also all of the players that have been loaned out. This does include youth loans, purely because by the end of this season they will have had some first team football of some kind. Now some of these will be very easy to decide on, and it'll just be a case of just putting what I think is going to happen with them, and then some of these others are obviously going to be a little bit more difficult to decide. Now, as an overall thing, do I think that a lot of this squad are ready? No. Not if I'm totally honest. Now, I don't know if this is down to the quality of the player. I don't know if this is down to the way that Daniel Farke's staff and Daniel himself are coaching the team, in terms of how they're wanting them to play. But there's just something that's nagging me that's basically saying that we're going to need quite a few new players when we get promoted. The good thing is that Leeds are now under an ownership that has money. With all due respect to Radrizzani, he didn't have enough money to be able to keep us up. 49ers Enterprises, however, and the York family, they do. Obviously it's a question of how much they're going to spend. However, no one can say that they don't have the cash to splash. However, it's always about buying quality rather than quantity. So, with that being said, who in this current squad is ready for the Premier League? Now I'm going to go down each player, and I'm going to say if they would get into the first 11, squad player, loan them out if they're not ready yet but they're still young enough to improve, and sell or release. Something along those lines at least. So, as I said, these are all in squad number order apart from the bottom ones which have been loaned out. And I'll get to those anyway. Starting with, and it couldn't start off with possibly a more controversial or split decision either way, could it? Ilan Meslier, the club's vice captain, as I call him, because obviously Strauch's the vice captain after Ampadu, but Meslier was captained as one of the vice captains, so I kind of put him as vice captain. I ain't gonna lie, I like Meslier. I really do believe there is a goalkeeper in there somewhere. I really do. I think some of the criticism has been harsh. I think some of the criticism has been warranted. And if we're going to be completely honest about it, he has some Premier League experience. And with better players in front of him, bearing in mind that Meslier is most definitely a confidence player. When he's confident, he comes out with some fantastic shot stopping ability. Can punch the ball like a boxer punches another guy in the face at times. You know what I mean? He's got some power on his punch. I do wish that he'd catch the ball sometimes. But again, I put this down partially down to the way that he's being coached. But a guy that high, he's 6'6" tall, and he's got an albatross's bloody wingspan. you know, he really should be catching the ball more. Claiming crosses, claiming corners and free kicks and things like that. But what some people seem to forget, he's still only 24, which for a senior goalkeeper with 200 games of senior play under his belt, he's in a great position to improve. And if he was coached right, I strongly believe that Meslier is going to become a very solid keeper. Keepers don't peak until a lot later than outfielders, on average. And I'm going to put it out there because I've been putting it in messages on other content creators, Leeds fans forum pages and things like that. I truly believe that before he retires, Ilya Meslier will get a cap for France. Don't know how many, but I strongly believe he will get at least one. It might even just be a friendly, but he will get a cap for France. I strongly believe that. Whether he'll be at Leeds when that happens, I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, in the entire list, Meslier is one of the most difficult to judge. Because for him to develop, with him being a goalkeeper, he has to play games. But he's had a real confidence issue this season. A couple of mistakes that he could have cut out. I do defend him to an extent though, because the defence has not helped him. When these critical errors have been occurring, the outfielders could have done a lot more to stop the ball even going anywhere near Ilya Meslier. And yet, because Ilya Meslier is the final line of defence, he's the one that takes the criticism and no bugger else gets anything. And it really annoys me, does that. Some people out there need to see the bigger picture and analyse exactly what has happened, not just with what Meslier has done, but what everybody else has done as well. And, if everyone was to do that, all of a sudden, Ilya Meslier would still receive criticism, of course, but it would be a far lot more constructive. And other players who've got equal responsibility as Meslier has would have received an equal share of the criticism. Anyway, this is purely about whether they're where they're going to be squad-wise. On the basis that he does know the league, he's played a couple of seasons as first-choice goalkeeper. You can't argue with that. Regardless of whether he did well or not so well, the fact remains he has got that experience. He's young enough to improve. Hello, Kirby. I don't need you climbing all over the keyboard. It's my cat. She loves jumping on keyboard. Right, I'm still very much on the fence with Meslier, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say either first choice or, at the very least, a squad player. I think the club would be foolish to sell him because I think that we've developed, we've been a big part of his development, and he really needs to, he needs to kick on. There's no doubt about it. He's he's close. If you can get him confident, when he was playing well. Right, let's not forget this. When he was playing well, people were doing. They were raving about him. There was pictures of him being dressed in a Superman cape when he made that kind of double, triple save to ensure that the ball wasn't going in the back of the Leeds net. He's shown that he is a capable goalkeeper, but he just needs that consistency and needs to cut out some of the silly errors. But I truly believe that there is a first team goalkeeper there. I really do. Most of these I'm going to try and categorise either 11 or squad, or loan out, or sell or release. Thanks, Kerbs. This is Kirby, my old black cat. Loves to be in the limelight, as you can tell. Can't stop her. So, apologies for the majority of me being cut out here, but then again, Kirby's cuter than me, so it's all good. Jaden Bogle. He splits opinion for me. Offensively, very good. Very, very good at times. Very difficult to defend against. He's surprisingly clever on the ball, and he's quite direct. I think this is why he links up well with Dan James in particular, because they're both quite direct. They're more what you would say traditional British players in terms of their play on the touchline there. When they're bombing down the wing, you can just see that little bit of trickery and intelligence and directness, that wanting to drive forward and attack with the ball, which is great. It's great. It's a great watch. It really is. However, we've seen this with Firpo. And again, and we'll get on to Junior Firpo after Jaden Bogle. As good as Bogle is going forward, I have strongly got my doubts about his defensive capabilities. Now, this could be part down to the way that Daniel Farke sets up, that he has the Leeds team very narrow at times, certainly defending, the team's very narrow, there's always a gap on one side, which winds me up to hell if truth be told. It just takes one player just to go out wide to cover that gap. Because the number of times that when the opposition's attacking and they just get that ball out wide, and our players are always chasing after it, rather than having just one player be out there, to challenge it. Now, up to now in the Championship, most of the time, the tactics work. I don't think this is going to work in the Premier League. You're up against better players, and gaps that are being left, the way that they are being left, are going to get absolutely hammered. Now, as I say, I put this down more to Farke's style rather than the ability of Jaden Bogle. However, Bogle still has been found out for pace. He's a little bit like Ayling in that regard. albeit I think Ayling's a better defender generally than Bogle. But the lack of pace does worry me. He's been outpaced by a few wingers this season as Jayden Bogle. When he's in position and he's in front of them and whatnot, he holds his own at this level. So, let's take a couple of other things into account. Good age, I think he's still only about 24. So again, can still improve. A couple more years to reach his peak as an outfielder. But I really believe we're going to need a better right back. I can't lie. So for now, as far as Jayden Bogle's concerned, I'm going to say squad. His attacking capability will be very, very good against the bottom half Premier League teams, but against the better teams, I worry. And I think if there was one area of Farke's tactics that are going to get found out in the Premier League, it's leaving that gap, because we defend so narrow and keep it all compact on the side that the ball starts on. But as soon as they whip that ball across to the other, diagonally to the other corner, there's always a gap there. And against better wingers, I worry. So for now, just on basis that he is still young enough to improve, and we don't know whether Daniel Farke is going to last the league or last the season with Leeds United in the Premier League, I'll say a squad for Bogle. Junior Firpo. Now, like Elimillier, Junior Firpo has had some time in the Premier League with Leeds. Bogle obviously only got signed this season, so he's not played in the Premier League with Leeds as of yet. Firpo's older than Bogle. Firpo is at the kind of age now in his late 20s where he is at the peak of his power. This is the level that Junior is at. Junior's injury record isn't brilliant, and his contract is running down. And Daniel Farke has not mentioned anything about Junior Firpo being talked to about a potential contract extension or even a new improved contract. At championship level, and for the style that Farke likes his team to play, again, like Bogle, he's very effective going down that left side. But when we played in the Premier League, and the whole squad was pretty poor when Firpo joined, but Junior Firpo got found out quite frequently. Defensively, I mean, again, could you put it down to the quality of the coaching? Possibly. But at the age he's at, he's not going to get any better. His contract's running down. It genuinely doesn't look as if he's going to get an extension. If we were to stay in the Championship, yeah, I'd offer him another contract. His Championship seems to be Junior's level, but in the Premier League, no, not for me. Good bloke, seems a really nice guy, but we're basing this purely on footballing ability. And despite his experience, and he is one of the more experienced players in the squad now, I'd release him. At the end of the season, I'd just let him go. I mean, chances are He will probably go back to Real Betis, the team that he came through with before joining Barcelona. Which would be a nice move for him, and I think maybe he could do quite well. The Spanish league works, plays a bit differently to the English Premier League, so I'd just say thanks for your time, Junior, and all the best for the rest of your career. Simple as that, really. Ethan Ampadu, club captain. Again, like Bogle, he's only about 24. Bags of time to get better. He's very highly thought of in a lot of areas, not just at Leeds. There's a lot of other clubs and other professionals that really rate Ethan Ampadu. Signed for a solid amount of money at this level. And Daniel Farke, sees him as the most important player in the club, hence why he made him captain. Does that alone make him Premier League ready? I'll see you for now. Simply put, good player, got that versatility as well, either for midfield or for defence, which is really valuable. Seems to be a good guy, leads the team internally. You can see him, he's always geeing the players up, which is good to see, and seems to have a very level head for a guy his age as well, which is always a positive. So yeah, I think Ethan could be one of the first 11 on a match day in the Premier League. Nothing much else to say on that one, really. Moving on to the vice captain, Pascal Strout. If Pascal can sort his injury record out, no-brainer. He'd be a first 11 quality player. Again, same kind of age. This is going to be a bit of a trend throughout a lot of this squad. The squad is a very similar age bracket for the majority. Strauch again is another one who's about 24-year-old. He's played a lot of games. He's got a lot of games under his belt, very much like Ampadu has. In his career. Which is great. And we just look so much better in defence when Pascal plays. He's a beast. He's a rock in defence. He really is. He's very, very good. And this season, until he got injured, easily one of our best players. Easily. And I don't think anyone can question that. I really don't. We always seem to look more vulnerable in defence without him. That speaks volumes for me, does that? He can score from set pieces as well. He's even got the confidence to take a penalty, which most centre backs don't. So, left-footed centre back. Yeah, In the Premier League, if he was to have a good season in the Premier League, I could see Pascal Strout getting a cap for Holland. I really could. And he's also got the option of Belgium if he wanted to. He was actually born in Belgium, but got brought up in Holland. So yeah, I think that's the stat anyway. But he's eligible for either. Put it that way. But yeah, I could see Pascal Strout becoming an international standard defender. In the future, if we get into Premier League with him. So yeah, that's a no-brainer for me. I think Pascal would be more than adequate as one of our centre-backs. And moving on, Joe Rodon. And again, just touching on it with Pascal, he has had a little bit of Premier League experience with Leeds, which obviously goes hand in hand with it all. All the experience that these players can gain, and have gained, obviously going in good stead for him. Joe Rodon, I'll put in the same bracket. I think he's good enough. He's nowhere near the level of Strauch in terms of attacking corners and free kicks from a Leeds offensive point of view, but defensively, very, very good. Very comfortable with the ball at his feet for a centre back. Likes to drive forward and run with the ball, bring it out of defence, which is very useful. And he's a bit of a warrior, isn't he? I mean, how many times is he in the wars? How many times do you see him put a bandage on his head and get all banged up? And Leeds fans like to see it. He had a fantastic season last season, really, really good. When he was on loan, I felt he started a bit slow this season. I felt that as soon as he signed that permanent deal with us, I was like, hold on a minute, where's the real Joe Rodon? Where's the Joe Rodon from last season? But as the season's gone on, he's got better and better and better, and he's now somewhere close to the Joe Rodon that we had last season. And I think he would be another that would potentially be good enough for the first 11. I mean, all of these that have got the number 11 next to them, again, at the very least, obviously good enough for the squad. It really depends on the quality of player that we bring in, when we do get promoted. So, there's that to take into account, but just solely based on what we currently have. Moving on to Dan James. Now, right, so here's the thing with Dan James. I like him. You can't teach or coach pace. Raw, direct speed. And Dan James has got it in bucket loads. There are not many players who play in any of the English divisions that are quicker than Dan James. And that alone is a massive asset. If you can get the best out of a player that is that quick, then you've got a dangerous tool there, a dangerous weapon. And for me, last season, 20 goal contributions, with the goals and assists combined. Best season he's ever had for anybody, let alone just Leeds, in his career to date. This season he's on track for another good season as well. If he can get somewhere close to that 20 goal contribution mark again, if he does that 2 seasons on trot, that to me kind of shows that he's finally just clicked. Something has just clicked for him where the system works for him, the style works for him. There's obviously going to be some coaching involved that's getting the best out of him. At the very, very least, you keep him in the squad without a shadow of a doubt. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna say 11 because if he's coached right, and if his confidence is there, he's improved on the one thing that he needed to improve on, and it's a made up word, but I call it clinicism. The ability to be clinical. And Dan's improved that massively over the last 18 months. It really has. And it shows. It shows when he plays. He's had far more good games than bad games over the last 18 months. And I thought his Leeds career was done. I really did. I thought his Leeds career was done 18 months ago. I thought, yeah, I just thought it was done, and he's just kicked on brilliantly, really, really well, and I can't be happier for him. You know what I mean? He has established himself in a squad that has got four very good wingers. All right, let's just put this out there. Leeds currently have four very good wingers at this level, and Dan James, he's one of the first names on the team sheet currently at Championship level. So that speaks volumes for me, does that? So yeah, for me, I think he gets in that 11. I think even if we buy, it would take someone like another Rafinha, to dislodge Dan James. Someone of that real quality. Because I think that when coached right, I think Dan could finally have a good season in the Premier League. Whether he'd get 20 goal contributions, that's debatable. You're coming up against better defences and better coached teams. But I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't still at least get a dozen goal contributions out of Dan James in a Premier League season. Bearing in mind, there's less games as well. So you've got to take that into account. But yeah, I think in terms of his form over the last 18 months, if he continued that form into a Premier League season with Leeds, if he played regular, I think you'd get a dozen goal contributions out of him. I don't think that'd be too unrealistic. So moving on to Joe Rothwell. Now this is one of a couple of players who are going to potentially have a different title next to them, rather than 11 squad or release, because Joe Rothwell is one of a couple of players who's currently on loan at Leeds. So, Joe Rothwell. The situation with him, do you buy him or do you not? Had to wait for his opportunity. Obviously the club started with Ampadu and Gruev in midfield. They both got injured. In comes Joe Rothwell and Outenacker. You can't fault him. The guy's got a bit of class at this level. A very different profile of player. Likes to run with the ball, drive it forward. It's become a bit of a trademark, from Joe Rothwell. Those driving runs that he makes with the ball are really good. He's not got blistering pace or anything like that, but he's just that direct. Let's get it forward. Let's support the front boys. And I like it. I do. I like the style. He's a very honest player. Good work rate. Really, and he's had to adapt his game a little bit to be a little bit more defensive because of the Farker style of having the 2 6s. The 2 defensive central midfielders. Because that's not Rothwell's style. Rothwell's style is more of an 8, almost like I wouldn't say it's quite a 10. I always see a 10 as closer to a striker than a midfielder. Personally. Yeah, everyone's opinion will differ on that one. But yeah, with Joe Rothwell, he's a progressive 8. You know what I mean? He's an attacking 8. Rather than he's certainly not a natural 6. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But he's complemented his qualities with the qualities that Outenacker has, and they've made those two have become a very good partnership in midfield. So let's have a look at a couple of other things regarding Joe Rothwell. He is in his late 20s. So he's not good. Chances are this is his peak. He's not likely to get any better. Do you get him right? This is right. So this is the difficulty now. This is where it's very, 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 very borderline. Do we buy him as a squad player? Because I think in the Premier League, I think we're going to need we'll need a Rothwell profile player, but we're going to need one maybe slightly younger, kind of 24, 25. And just one that's a little better. Just one that's gonna chip in with more goals and assists. I mean, I'll give Rothwell his due. Very good set piece taker. Like, our corners have improved in terms of the quality of delivery. Our corners have improved so much this season. He gets I'd say that 80% of Joe Rothwell's corners have been good corners, and that's a good start. You know what I mean? He don't do a bad corner often. He's just got. I think it's just judgment. When he puts his foot through the ball, he just knows where to put it. The kind of length, height, distance, trajectory, bend, all that kind of thing. He's just got a very good right foot for set pieces, But that alone can't be his only attribute, as well as those forward direct runs that he makes. At this level, at championship level, he's a very, very good championship midfielder, is Joe Rothwell. Based on what I've seen of him this season, very good. And to be honest, I'm a little surprised he didn't get more opportunity at Southampton last season. I think he was at Southampton. I don't think he played all that much. Not as much as he's played this season, anyway. So, do we keep him as a squad player? So do we buy him and get him as a squad player? Because again, he provides experience. Being the age of the years. I don't think Joe Rothwell would be on. I don't think he'd be on mega wages if we did sign him. He's currently on loan from Bournemouth. Oh, I'm really torn on the decision with Joe Rothwell here. As good as his forward runs and as good as his set pieces are, when I look at his overall game, is it good enough for the Premier League? I wouldn't be disappointed if we did get him. I might get a bit of jip for this, but I'm gonna say. Oh God, this is a difficult decision. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say don't buy. Just because I think we need to be very wary of the qualities that we need to bring in. We're going to need some better quality. And again, I put it down to the way that this isn't as much to do with Rothwell's ability. This is more to do with the style that Farke plays. I think that's the reason why Joe Rothwell hasn't scored and assisted more. Because his responsibility really is still part of that double pivot. And at Premier League level, I think he might just get found out a little bit for that role. I think if we were going to use Joe Rothwell as a natural 8 rather than a 6, even a progressive 6, I'm not sure that Joe. I'm not sure he'd be good enough for the Premier League. As a natural 8 or a progressive 8, I'd get him as a squad player. but that's not the Farke style. It's very, very borderline, is that one. I'm so close to saying buy him and then put the word squad next to him. Because the one thing that we will need next season is a squad. Because if something doesn't work with certain players, you need other players that can come in and do a job. And Joe could do that, but I just don't think he can do that in the Farke style. Not at Premier League level. I feel really harsh on that one. I don't know why. Patrick Bamford. Been at Leeds a while now. His injury record is so bad, isn't it? And I feel for the guy. Good bloke. Has put his all into it for Leeds when he's played, you know what I mean? He's really given it a good go. And we've had 2 very good seasons from Pat Bamford. You know, the season where he got 15 goals in the Championship, and then the season in the Premier League where he got 17. Excellent. You know, absolutely excellent. If you get a full season of Pat Bamford being fit, or at least the majority, then you've got a good player there. You've got a good striker. Yes, he's got a miss in him, but so have so many other strikers. It's everything else. It's his all-round game. His hold-up play is very good. He don't take crap from defenders. You know, he's quite strong. You know, he'll hold things up. He brings everyone into play. This is what Bamford's very good at. He allows the wingers to come into play. He'll hold that ball up, the wingers go forward, and then he releases the ball to the wingers who do the rest. And then that allows Bamford to get further forward into the box. They get the ball in, and Bamford has a chance perhaps to get an attempt on goal. You know, that's a very basic description of a possible attack. However, when we get promoted, we are going to need players to stay fit. And Patrick Bamford, unfortunately, bearing in mind as well, he's in his 30s now. He's not going to get better. So, for me, I think he still has about another year on his contract. I'm going to have to say sell. But, unlike a lot of people who, you know, are very critical of Patrick Bamford, as I say, you know, he does miss a lot of chances, but he has been our number 9, and people seem to forget that. But he has been the Leeds United number 9, and for at least 2 seasons was very, very good. That season in the Premier League where he got 17 goals, he was about the 3rd top scorer in the entire division. You can't argue against that. You know, there was only Harry Kane and one other, as far as I remember. You know, it was a very good season. You know, but we just haven't had more of that. And a lot of that is down to the injuries. So for me, yeah, it would be a case of selling. He is the club's top earner, currently on 35 grand a week. He was on 70 in the Premier League as well. So you know, we've got to take all that into consideration. You know, and if we if for whatever reason we didn't get promoted, you know, we can't have another season of Pat Bamford on 35 grand a week at that level. We just can't. So for me, it would be a case of selling him. But with, you know, when selling him, he'd be getting a big thank you, because he's given us a couple of seasons where he looked a damn good player. I think he's just past his peak now. This is the thing. If you could get Bamford fully fit for another Championship season, or even if he went to League 1, if you could get him fit and play him in League 1, he'd destroy it. He'd be the season's top scorer by a mile. I'm really confident of that, because he'd be against defences that just won't be able to put up with him. If he was in a team in League 1 that was giving him the service, yeah, it'd be absolutely solid in League One. But as I say, I think a team might still get a season out of him in the Championship if they can get him fit. Moving on to Joel Pirro. Difficult one, this. So Pirro, I think he's 25 now. In the Championship he has like a 1 in 2 record in terms of goals. For his time at Swansea and his time at Leeds so far, he is literally on about a 1 in 2 goal scorer. He's very much a striker that you want in the penalty box. On the eye, it always looks like he doesn't do very much outside of it. But if you give him good service, he's quite clinical. He is a goal scorer. He can score goals. Certainly at this level. Unproven in the Premier League. But I think again, if you give Joel the service and you give it him in the penalty box, he's very, very capable. I keep him as a squad striker. I think we definitely need better. I think we definitely need better in terms of that natural number 9 that's just going to absolutely rip the league apart. Come away with 20 goals within a season. I think with Joel, I think he could maybe end a Premier League season maybe on 15, something like that, if he plays. But I'd like to see something better. But again, I think maybe when defences are tiring a little bit, if Joel was to come on, you give him the ball, he'll cause some problems, and he's still got a couple of years to improve. As I say, he's still only about 25. So for me, good squad striker. Not quite the 11, the first 11, the main number 9 that we need though. Brendan Aronson. I've got to give this kid his due. I really do. He came back into the Leeds squad after a very mediocre season with Union Berlin in the Bundesliga, when he had that loan spell there, and he was part of the exiles. He was part of those that wanted to ply his trade elsewhere, but went out on loan rather than being sold and all the rest of it. The club bought him while they were in the Premier League. They bought him for quite a lot of money, well over 20 million. I can't exactly remember what it were now, maybe 22, 24, something like that perhaps. And when he was last in the Premier League, he was very lightweight. He came out himself and said that he was trying to win penalties and free kicks and things like that, but I mean, if the wind was too strong, he was falling over. You know what I mean? It was really bad, and unfortunately, you can't do that. You've got to be stronger. You've got to be more effective, and you've just got to. You've got to contribute more. You've got to spend more time on your feet than on the ground. But since coming back, he's improved. Maybe that's down to Farke's coaching. Maybe it's just the fact that finally Aronson is playing in the number 10 role, which is the role that he feels most comfortable in. When he signed for Leeds, there was times when he'd go out on the right wing. Actually, I didn't think he, like when we initially signed Brendan Aronson and he was playing on the right wing occasionally, I thought he looked okay. He actually looked better as a right winger than he did as a 10. And again, I don't know if that's down to the coaching or what, but that's how it came across to me. And the thing with Brendan, he's not full of tricks and things like a Rafinha, like a Pablo Hernandez. He's not got that trickery about him in the role of a 10. or a winger or anything like that. He's very much a bit more like a Dan James. You know, he's a bit more. He's got a bit of a British style to him as opposed to a European flair style, if you will. But what he's doing right now is effective. He's having a go. I really like this. He's having a damn good go. He's, you know, I think he's one of the top players for having an attempt on goal. So for that, that's got to be commended. At least he's bloody trying. And I like that. You need that. You really do need that. If you don't shoot, you don't score, and if you don't score, you don't win games. I know all this sounds very, very one-dimensional, very obvious, that it's just common sense. But how many players have Leeds had in the past that are almost trying to pass it into the net? Brendan's having a go. He's getting shots off. He's trying to score goals for Leeds, and his goal and assist output this season is very good. He's our second best player behind Joel Pirro for goals and assists right now. And for me, that just shows a sign of maturity and a sign of becoming more experienced. And again, he's another that's in the 24-25 bracket age-wise. He's got time to improve. And I think that, unlike when he was about 20, he was about, I think he was 22 when we got him, and he looked like a raw 22. You know what I mean? Now, being 24, he just comes across that bit more mature about his game, and he's trying to get more shots off and not try and just moan to the referee and all this kind of thing. He does look like he's about to have a meltdown every time he don't get a decision go his way. But I think some of that is down to how bad the refereeing is in this division. It's terrible. I'm not gonna beat around the bush about it. So maybe that's something. But again, he's not letting it get to him in the sense of referee's not giving me a decision here because I've just been fouled and I'm just going to sulk for the rest of the game. He's not got that attitude. His attitude has improved, and we currently have a good version of Brendan Aronson. So, does he get in the 11 or is he a squad 10? Because again, it's questionable as to whether he can do this in the Premier League. The Premier League won't play with as many low blocks or even low to mid blocks as you get with Championship teams. So there is a possibility that Brendan would get that opportunity. He's reasonably quick, and he's a workhorse as well. Let's just point that out. His energy levels on the pitch are really good. He never stops running. He's always trying, and I like it. I really like the attitude. He has improved that side of his game massively, in my opinion. And it proves with his goal and assist output. It really does. I just think that if the opportunity came in to get someone else like a Rafinha, or even a Pablo Hernandez from his younger days, like in his late 20s rather than his 30s, someone like that could really enhance what we've already got. You know what? I'm gonna do the same as what I did with Millier on this one. I'm a little bit on fence with Aronson there. Definitely squad minimum. I really think he's got a couple more years to get even better. And with better players around him, if we assume that the ownership at Leeds is going to bring some quality players in, I think he's scraping the first 11 there. Most definitely squad. I think you keep him. I think you keep him. You've got to keep him. I think he's on an upward trajectory right now. I think he needs another opportunity in the Premier League and to really show Leeds what he can do. But he's certainly he's doing everything he can to get the fans back on side with him. And fair play to the guy. So yeah, for me, he definitely squad and very almost the first 11. But I think if the opportunity came in, just because goals and assists are going to be so crucial next season, I just think that maybe we need we need another one anyway, squad depth wise. He's the only natural 10 at the club. But yeah, that's where I've got Brendan. Right, interesting one here. Manor Solomon. In recent weeks, he has become a first choice winger. And we're really starting to see the quality that Solomon has. He's obviously getting fitter. I know he's just recently picked up another injury, but generally speaking, his fitness this season has been good enough for him to play games for most of the time. Whereas previously in other seasons he's been injured a lot. But he's definitely a good player. He's definitely a good player, is Manor Solomon. Weirdly, I don't know his age. I can't remember how old he is. I get the feeling he might be about Dan James's age, maybe 25, 26, something like that perhaps. So there's still a little bit of time for Solomon to get better. Very good on the ball. Like he doesn't lose the ball often. He's more than made up for that slip against Burnley. Every player will make a mistake at this level. That's why they play at this level and they don't play in the Premier League currently. And on the basis that he's, we got him after he had a very bad injury. I can't fault the guy. He's getting better. He's going to finish the season on fire if he gets his fitness back. After this current little injury that he's got. And his output's quite good. So far he's chipping in with goals and assists now, which is great. And he could be on track for a very fruitful season. He could be maybe on for, I don't know. I don't think he's going to get 20 goal contributions in total. But I reckon we might get. I reckon we maybe get 12, 15, something like that out of him. And for a player that's just come back from a very bad injury, and for a player who's only in on loan, loaned players can always be questioned a little bit more than players that are contracted to the club. But you can't argue with his effort. He comes across as a good bloke. He's very much got that personality that Farke looks for in a player. So you can see why Farke's had him on loan. Now I think Tottenham have said that they've sent Solomon out on loan, but not with a view to selling him. But I think dependent on who Tottenham have as manager at the time when we get promoted, that could change things. And again, if Leeds put in a bid of a certain amount, I think Solomon could do a job in the Premier League for us. Does he get an 11 next to him? If he continues in the trajectory that he's going this season, I think Manor Solomon could do a job in the Premier League, and he has got a few matches in the Premier League, with Tottenham. So, and I could be wrong. Did he have a loan at Fulham? Possibly in the Premier League as well. I don't know. I'm going to say 11. And obviously with him being alone, I'm going to say bye. Do I say 11 or do I say squad? Oh, that's a tough one because all four of our, I like all four of our wingers. They're all good. All four of our current wingers are really good. Have they got what it takes in the Premier League? That is the question. This is what this whole stream is about. This whole video is about. It's about because it's very difficult to decide on this because these players are thriving at championship level right now. It's very difficult to know if they would be good enough for the Premier League. It's a total different kettle of fish. And I don't want to go heavy on the 11s because I don't think we have that many that are, that are dead cert starters in the 11. So I'm going to say bye. And I'm going to say 11/squad. Just because, I mean, we don't, will his fitness be right? It's such a difficult one. Like, you look at the Leeds current squad, and you could literally say that we need a brand new first 11 of, full of Premier League quality standard players. But, that ain't going to happen in one season. It just won't. It will be a building process. Look at what Nottingham Forest have done. I don't agree with a lot of what Nottingham Forest have done, with the number of players they've bought and then got rid of, just by clicking fingers, in terms of speed of buying them and then selling them. But they've finally found a formula that works for them and they're having a very good season. And it could be a fluke, could be a one-off, but they've got there, currently, and chances are Forest will probably at the very least qualify for the Europa Conference League next season. So, they didn't have a they didn't have a squad that was good enough for that for the first couple of seasons. First couple of seasons back in the Premier League, they were threatened against relegation. So, it will be a case of Leeds finding out who will be good enough going forward, and just building that squad season by season, but making sure that we stay in the Premier League this time. So moving on to Laji Ramazani, I like this kid. This kid has got a little bit of talent. I ain't gonna lie. He's pacey, very good on the ball. Got a trick on him. Got one hell of a goal on him. He's chipping in with goals and assists. Is Laji Ramazani. Loves to attack. Which is what you want to see from your wingers. You want to see that. I think we've seen it from all four of our wingers at times this season. They love to attack, they love to get forward and get scoring goals, assisting goals, and that's what you need from your wingers. It's that simple. But yeah, and and he's slightly younger as well. I think he's still only like 23, so he's got like an extra year to be able to improve. He's nowhere near his peak yet. Nowhere near his peak. It could be one hell of a find. We've got him for about 7 million roughly, I think. That's a bit of a snip. And before he got that chunky injury earlier in the season, I think he'd already got like 3 goals and 3 assists. He was really looking good. You could really see what he was bringing to the table. Just because I think he's got a higher ceiling than Solomon, because he's younger, he's got more time to improve. You know what? I'm going to give him an 11. I think he's good enough for that 11. I do. Um, Again, it's a difficult one because we've not seen if Ramazani can cut it at that level, but when he was playing in La Liga, he was he was ripping it up. Well, not ripping it up, but he was holding his own against teams like Real Madrid and Barcelona when playing for I think he played for Almeria, something like that. I think that's who we bought him from. And he was holding his own. He was doing okay, and he was younger back then. I just think Ramazani could be a real find, a really good find. On to one of the youngest players within this group that's had a fair chunk of senior experience this season, Matteo Joseph. Matteo Joseph, what are we going to say about Mr. Joseph? What can we say about him? He is a player with a lot of potential. He has proven it at youth level for club. He's proved it at youth level internationally. He's got the majority of the attributes that you would love to see in a number 9. Quite strong for a guy of his size. He's not a big lad, but he's quite strong. Good on the ball. Kirby's sleeping right now. She makes funny noises when she sleeps, as Kirby. But yeah, there is a shed load of potential for Matteo Joseph. I mean, he played against Premier League opposition in Chelsea in the Cup and scored 2 goals against them. You know what I mean? And he was younger back then. His goal and assist output this season is small for the number of appearances that he's made, but it's his first season of having some real taste of first team football, and he's still very, very young. For a number 9, it's one of those positions that's highly scrutinised, because if you're a number 9 and you don't score goals, then what's the point of being a number 9? That's the very basic view, for someone that's vying to be the club's main striker. And because the club only currently plays with 1 up front, and then a 10 and 2 wingers, rather than like the old style traditional 4-4-2, which I miss, by the way. I'm a bit old school. I love the 4-4-2. For me, that's the proper formation to play football. But football's evolved, hasn't it? Let's face it. Anyway, regarding Matteo Joseph, this might get some This might get some backlash. But when we get into the Premier League, we're going to need goals. And for as much potential as Matteo Joseph has got, he's a good kid, quite mature for his age. He's very well spoken when he does interviews. You can tell he's hungry for goals. His effort is really good. You can't fault the kid's effort. However, in the Premier League, in any division, you need goals, and he's not there yet. So, loan him out. Now, as I say, that to me could get a little bit of backlash. There could, I feel that maybe 1 or 2 fans might think, why loan him out? How's he gonna gain the Premier League experience if he's not giving it? But I think for the first season back, Leeds can't afford to give players a chance to gain that experience. They need to be Premier League ready. And we could keep him as a squad player, but again, very much like Pirro, who I think will be a squad player, because I think we're going to need a Premier League quality number 9. Joseph will be, in my opinion, a Premier League number 9 eventually. But at the age of 21, he's got a very high ceiling of potential. He'll become a very good striker, a very good goal scorer. He knows where the goal is. He's proven it at youth level, for both club and country. He's very effective. And he's got all the attributes. He's quite quick, quite strong, very comfortable on the ball. But I just feel he needs a really good loan spell. Maybe send him out to a mid-table La Liga team, or maybe even to a team like Glasgow Celtic. That way, then he'll get some European experience as well. Playing in Champions League. But he needs to go to a team where he is their primary number 9. So even if it is back to the Championship, he needs to play a full season, because this season he's had almost as many starts as he's had sub appearances. He needs a season of full first team football, and then come back to Leeds, the star player that he could potentially become. As I say, he's got so many years to improve. He's nowhere near his peak yet. Nowhere near. But there's a very good player in Matteo Joseph. I believe that. And we bought him for £1 million. It's a steal. For the player that he could become, it's a steal. So, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Loan him out, but make it a very purposeful loan. He needs to prove that he can be a club's main number 9, not like a joint number 9 like he is with Perot, but a regular starting number 9. He needs a full minimum 30 starts in the Premier League or 40 starts in the Championship, again, just lots of regular starts out. As I say, if he could make the move, he could make a loan move to Celtic, which is obviously still very much a British style. I know the standard of the Scottish Premier League is like Championship almost, really, but at least he'd get the opportunity to play Champions League, which would be really useful for him. Or send him out to somewhere like La Liga, Bundesliga, something like that, where he can really shine, against some very good teams. That's the aim for Matteo Joseph. Tanaka, I'm just going to put it in. I don't care. There you go. 11. I love the way that that Japanese and South Korean players play. There's just something about them. They're really good. And I just think Tanaka's a first 11 ability player. I really do. There's not much that he can't do, and that to me is so important. And he's not even playing in his natural position. He's a natural number 8. He's a centralised number 8 that can do a bit of everything. Go forward, come back and defend, go forward and attack. He can do the lot. Brilliant player. I really think Tanaka, for £3 million, it's a snip. It's an absolute steal. He's had a couple of rough games recently, but he's not used to playing games through the winter due to the teams that he's played for previously, and have like a winter break, for example. But a bloody good player, and I'm certain. For me, with Tanaka's skill set, he's one that could just adapt to the Premier League naturally, very much like Pascal Struijk in defence. For me, I just think he's and again, like Struijk, he's been one of our best players this season, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't think I need to say much more about him because he's, for me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. He gets in that 11, and as a bare minimum, he's always on that subs bench when we get promoted because he's that good a player, and again he's, what is he, 25? He's not at his peak yet either. So yeah, easy peasy. Joshua Gilavogi, what a guy. You can tell that his influence around the squad is absolutely brilliant. You know, the players love him to bits. Seems a really good bloke, and you know, that influence and his attitude, just a model professional. You know, he's, you know, like when he signed for Leeds, he was literally, you know, he was a free transfer. He didn't know where his next club was going to be. He, you know, he really didn't know what the future held for him. You know, we signed him at the age of about 33. You know, highly experienced, played in most of the top divisions in Europe. Looks very tidy in you know, when he plays in defensive midfield. He's not a centre back. Jesus Christ, he's not a centre back. For such a big dude as well, you know, you'd think he'd be a great asset for centre back, but he's really not. Too slow. Simply put, too slow. But he's a big, strong unit, and just anchors that midfield really well. You know, if you want a natural defensive midfielder, Gilavogi can play that role for you. He's only on a 1-year contract. If he was agreeable to stay on low wages and agreeable to be that backup player, I'd keep him. I'd give him a 1-year deal because all that experience he's got, you know, it's prime. It's quality that you can't always guarantee with younger players. You know, and you know, he literally came out and said, I could have either been on holiday or sat at home, or I could play for Leeds United. You know, that he could earn a living being part of the Leeds United squad. You know, and I like that. You know, and the you know, like Daniel Farker was totally honest with him as well. He said, look, we've got a midfield crisis here. Our two first choice midfielders are injured for quite some time. We've only got 2 fit senior centre midfielders at the moment. You're coming in as backup. Will you do it? Will you help us? And he has, and he is doing. You know, it's exactly what he's doing. As I say, his contract's not mega bucks. You know, but the guy's influence, it's infectious across the squad. He is the first player to go and celebrate with all the other players when Leeds score a goal. And his influence and experience is massively helpful to all of these younger players in the squad. So for me, and again, this is a bit of a, you know, a bit of a different title. I'm going to put 1-year deal. Give Josh Gilavogi another 1-year deal, just to help the club stay in the Premier League, keep that motivation going within the squad. He must be brilliant in training. You know what I mean? Like he must have such a great influence on the rest of the squad in training. And you can't. Sometimes personality is just as important as ability. Sometimes more so. You know, he's not got long left in terms of playing. There's no doubt about that. You know, he is 34 now, as far as I know, and you know, he's not pacey by any stretch. But you know, he's a big, strong unit. He's got that influence. He's got the experience. I'd keep him as a backup and offer him that 1 year deal. So I'll put slash backup. I won't even put squad, but I'll put like, you know, kind of. I'll put as a backup. I don't think anyone could grumble with that, quite frankly. You know, because again, if we do have another midfield crisis, what we're going to do? If we lose all of our midfielders in the Premier League, we're going to need Josh to step up, and he'd do that. He'd do that. He really would. And you know what? I'm going to do a similar thing for Sam Byram. He is Mr. Consistent, is Sam Byram. He's experienced now. He's proved that he can get through more games in a season than what most of us thought he could. You know, he still gets his injuries. There's no doubt about that. But his injuries are usually quite small. And he's been vital for Leeds this season as Sam Byram. And last season as well, I thought he was very good. So for Sam Byram, I'm going to say a 1 year deal for him and put squad. He's a 7 out of 10 every time. You know, he's 7 out of 10 every time. You know, he's Mr. Reliable. He don't, like, I can't think of many games where he's had a bad game. And he's a I think it goes unnoticed that he's a very intelligent player. How often does he make a mistake? How often does he give the ball away? How often does he lose his man? Don't happen often. You know what I mean? And as long as you manage Sam's minutes, that is a good squad player to have for me. I think we will need better fullbacks going forward in the Premier League. I think we're going to need ones that are equally as good going forward as they are defensively. Sam, he's more defensive minded, so he's not quite as good as either Firpo or Bogle for the offensive side of things. You know, which is obviously more adaptable to the Farke style. But I do believe that with Sam Byram, you've got a player that is worth having and worth keeping. Again, like Gilavogi, he's not going to be on megabucks, you know, because he's had to prove his fitness. And you know, by end of this season, we'll have probably gotten somewhere close to 30 appearances for Sam Byram out of 46, which really isn't bad for a player that's been known to be injury prone. You know, and again, you've got to take his age into account. I think he'll be 31 going into the new season, going into 32. So, you know, as a starter, I think we need better, you know, for the Premier League. But as a squad player and with that experience, and he knows the club, he came through the club originally. So for me, yeah, no brainer really. Caldallo, I'm sorry to say, I'm going to say sell. A player of Caldallo's age, he's going to want first team games. You know, he's no spring chicken now. He's going to be 33, which is not super, like going into the new season, I think he'll be 33. Which is, you know, that's still relatively young for a goalkeeper in a way. You get goalkeepers playing till the age of 40 and beyond sometimes. Look at Schwarzer, Friedel, you know, just to name a couple. You know, those guys, Keller, you know, those guys played in goal in the Premier League until they were 40 and beyond. You know, so players like that. Neville Southall, going back a long time ago, Jesus, he wasn't even overly fit either. Like, the guy looked like he'd eaten all pies, but at the end of the day, he kept playing, didn't he? At a good level. So, you know, So for me with Darlow, he's never fully convinced me when he's had the rare opportunity to play for Leeds. Looked all right against Harrogate, but Harrogate's near the bottom of League Two. Yeah, you could argue that he's not been given a chance in the Championship with Leeds, but I think there's reasons why. And I wouldn't feel comfortable with Darlow in net at Premier League level. I think Carl Darlow's Premier League time has been and gone now. And even as a backup, you need a backup that's going to come into the team and do the job. And no, not for me. And you know what? I've just remembered he didn't come up in the squad list because he hasn't played a game yet. But there's a player that I need to add on at the very bottom of this list. I'll add him on at the end. But yeah, for me, I wouldn't even keep him as third choice. Just something, I don't know, something just hasn't clicked for Darlow at Leeds. Nothing against the guy. But yeah, I don't know. I think that when Leeds get to the Premier League, I think that Carl Darlow needs to get himself a number one spot at a Championship club. I really do. And just play a full season. Get a full season under his belt. And go from there. Right. Wilfred Gnonto. What can we say about this kid? He's still only 21. He was like 19 when we first got him or something, you know what I mean? He's still so young. He's like Joseph. He's got a shed load of potential. Just needs to come out of him that little more. But you can see there's a player there. You don't get capped by the Italy first team at the age of 18 if you don't have something about you. When we first bought him and when we first started using him and playing him, teams were tripling up against him, for Christ's sake. They couldn't, doubling up against him wasn't enough. He was just playing with no fear. He just played with freedom and confidence. He was enjoying his football. And then he's gone through everything that he's gone through. He had a bad agent. He's had moments where he's been saying he wants to leave the club, all this kind of thing. A bit petulant on the pitch as well. He's having to mature and reel that in. But he's still pretty damn young. Now, unlike Matteo Joseph, who I think would benefit from a loan spell, I don't think Gnonto benefits from a loan spell. I don't think he benefits from a loan spell. But because I think out of our four wingers, certainly with how he's playing at the moment, he gets the word squad next to him. But you can't. I don't think the club can let him go unless a ridiculous bid comes in, maybe 35 million plus, which I don't think will happen because I don't think he's there yet. We bought him for about 5 or 6 million. So, and I wouldn't want the club to make anything less than 30 million on him. So to do that, you've got to sell him for 35, 36 million. And I don't think he's quite there yet. But the ceiling of potential is so high with Wilf Gnonto. It really is. There's a player there. There's an obvious player there. When he's playing with confidence and he's playing with, with no fear, he's a very good winger. And yeah, I'm going to say squad just because I think the potential's there, and I don't think a loan spell helps him. To be honest. but I think he'd be a very good squad player. I think that Solomon and Ramazani and James are ahead of him at the moment. But if we could get the Nonto back that we had when we first signed him, he'd get himself into that 11. At that point, it's his a little bit like Dan James from a couple of seasons ago. It's his goals and assists output. You can see that on the ball he's a quality player, but he needs to start getting a few more goals and assists. However, let's not forget he started this season very well, and looked like the kind of player that we had a couple of seasons ago, and also that some of the limelight wasn't being hogged by Somerville and by Rutter. Nonto was getting his chance early on in the season. That's why I don't think a loan spell would help him. I think a loan spell for Joseph helps because it's a number 9. There's more focus on Joseph getting those goals. With Nonto, it's about assisting the goals. I think there's and obviously you still want him to score, obviously, but I just think Nonto would still be a very good squad player. So if we can get him back to that confidence that he had. Joe Gallagher, this is a difficult one, isn't it? The poor kid hasn't had much opportunity at all this season, but he's been at the club for quite some time now. He's too good for the under-21. I mean, he's 22 now anyway, so he's too old for the under-21s. But it just hasn't happened for Joe Gallagher, and it won't happen for Joe Gallagher as long as Daniel Farker's in charge. Farker's mentioned about how well Joe's been in terms of his attitude and his professionalism, which is great. That's what you want. You want that in your players. But is Gallagher good enough at the age of 22 in the Premier League? I would suggest not. Now, do we sell him and try and make a bit of money on the £1 million that we spent to get him in the first place? Or do we loan him out? Because at that age, I mean, he's still got so much time to improve, hasn't he? Even at 22. Yeah, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but if we sold him, I wouldn't grumble. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say loan out. For now. But as I say, unlike Joseph, that I think could really hit a very high ceiling, it's a lower ceiling for Joseph. For Gallagher. When he is called Joseph, he's called Joseph Gallagher, but anyway, I'll get away with that one. So, yeah, for me, loan him out, but if the club did sell him, I wouldn't grumble too much. The kid's just not had a lot of luck, to be honest. But he's no longer a kid, like a teenager anymore. He's a player that's going to be looking to get game time. Very much like Sam Greenwood, who we'll come on to a bit later. Isaac Smith. This is a difficult one, isn't it? We've hardly seen him. What we have seen of him, I think, has looked quite good. I really do. I think there's a player there. I think he's about 23. So like a similar age to Ramazani. Do I think that Schmidt's there yet? It's hard to tell. We haven't seen enough of him. But he was one of our best players in the cup match against Harrogate, albeit that's against very low opposition. But when you consider that the guy had only played about 20 minutes coming off the bench as a sub, and you've got to divide that 21 minutes by about 7 times. I think he's been a sub 7 times. So he's averaged about 3 minutes per sub appearance. How can anyone judge a player on that? You can't, can you? And there were moments where, fans felt that he should have come on when there was the match where we had injuries to both fullbacks, and he went for Ampadu instead of Schmidt. And in the end, it was discovered to be a tactical change as opposed to, which I'm a bit dubious about. But I think Isaac Smith did enough in that cup game just to show that he can play. And again, you know, when Schmidt's playing with the better players around him, I think he could do well. So for me, we keep him. I don't, you know, he don't get in the 11, but I think there's a player there. I really do. De Bayo, I think we just simply put, I think we loan him out. He's a young kid. You know, he's still a teenager, and he needs a season where he's playing first team football. So a loan to a championship club, playing week in week out, will do the wonders for James De Bayo. Looks a good player. You know, having watched him in the Leeds under-21s, looks a good centre back. Good player. So yeah, I think a loan, just simply put, I think a loan would be very useful for him. Max Ferber. Maxi, what we're going to do with you? He's still only about 25. Like, he's you know, he's another one that's got time to improve. And he's a fully fledged Austrian international. He's very highly thought of by the Austrian FA. You know, he's one of their most important defenders. Can play centre back or left back. More of a wing back, I guess, really. But for me, he's more of a centre back than a full back or wing back. He's had some fitness issues, which is a bit of a worry. When we first signed him, I thought he looked great, to be honest. I mean, you know, like all the other exiles, I was not happy with his attitude on that at all. It stunk, quite frankly, and I would not have been averse to him being gotten rid of, to be honest. But when he has played a little bit this season, I don't think he's done bad. I'd keep as a squad player, I think, to be honest. As I say, he's got that versatility. He's, you know, he is a full international. So I'd keep him as a squad. I'd keep him as a squad player. Sam Chambers, same as De Bayo. Lots of potential. Looks a good winger. Scored a belter in the friendly in pre-season. Absolute belter. Really good goal. And he's a bit younger than De Bayo as well. Right? So Chambers is very much a young player, and a full season on loan, championship level again. If he could get regular games in the championship, it'd do him a world of good. I think he could do well. I really do. Even a full season on, you know, at League One. You know, just get regular games, get 40 games under your belt, and see what you can do. And again, same for De Bayo as well. You know, whether it be Championship, League One, or even Scottish Premiership, something like that. Just give them a full season loan, let them get that full first team experience. It'll do them a world of good. Ilya Gruev. He's come back from that nasty injury. And in the couple of minutes he's played so far, his recovery's been really good. You know, he really has looked all right. You know, which is good, because when you're out for so long, it's a massive worry. It's a massive, massive worry. So for me with Gruev, is he good enough for regular 11? Is he just a squad, or is he somewhere in between? I like him. I like Gruev. I think he's a very good player. Very tidy. Very tidy player. I just wonder if there's enough about his overall game. This might be a little harsh. I'm going to say 11/squad. Because again, his age, he's another one. He's still only about 24. He's got loads of time to improve, and he's proven himself for Leeds. He's once he got that opportunity last season, all started out very slow, but he was one of not very many players that had never played in England before, so it was going to take him time. And I think we bought him for about 5 million. Yeah, it's a good deal, and I think he's going to be a good player. I really do. He's another one that's got time to get better. So for me, if he played in the 11, I wouldn't be worried. But if he was a squad player again, I wouldn't be worried either. I think we've got a good player there. So yeah, 11/squad for Grove, I think. Charlie Crew, loan out. Again, he's another young player that needs a full season of first team football. Get 40 games under your belt, and he's already a full Wales international at a very young age. Similar situation to Nonto, I guess. But I just think that Crew's still a bit rawer than Nonto. Nonto's already had quite a bit of first team experience. Crew hasn't, and you can't beat first team experience when you're a young player. So yeah, simply put, definitely a good player on his hands there with Charlie Crew, but he needs to be loaned out. Won't waste too much time on the next one. Jack Harrison, don't like the attitude that he's shown since becoming one of the exiles, and quite frankly, to allow his mum to start gobbing off and saying the stuff that's been said about Leeds. Don't like it. Quite simply put, sell him. And it's a shame because I think there's a player there. Again, he's in his mid to late 20s now. He's Harrison, he's like 25, 26, something like that. On his day, very, very useful winger. But with the quality of wingers that we've already got, I don't think he gets in. His form for the last 18 months in the Premier League has been poor, very poor. And if he was to come back in the Leeds team, he'd have to clean his attitude up. He would have a massive redemption arc to just kind of fill. And no, I don't see it. I was hopeful that we might see Harrison again until his mum started gobbing off, and that peeved me off. I can't lie. His mum's attitude towards it all was very poor indeed. And the one thing about Farke, he wants the right type of person in the squad as well as the ability. Harrison's got the ability, but has he got the personality and attitude? Right now, no. So for me, sell. Simple as. If we can get the 10-15 million that was paid for him or whatever it was, he had like 3 consecutive loan spells before we made it permanent. So if we can get double figures in any kind of shape or form for Harrison, I'd take it. Perkins, he's coming up to the end of his contract. Having a decent season at Leyton Orient, as far as I can tell. I think it's been mentioned that's the club that he actually came from before he joined West Ham. Simply put, release. Nothing against the kid. He might have a good career. Him and Joseph, when they came through the under-21s at Leeds, they were a great partnership. Really, really good. Kind of like how Greenwood and Gallart were before them. So yeah, for me, simply put, release him. Darko JB, now this is a difficult one because JB is having that full loan season at Plymouth at the moment. Plymouth are struggling mostly because of the fact that they've had Wayne Rooney as manager for up until recently. Defensively, they're woeful, absolutely woeful at Plymouth. But JB has been one of those players that has looked quite good. So I think, he is a little bit older than some of these others. But maybe in a situation like with Matteo Joseph, that he just needs to get, continuously get more game time. I say give him another loan, but make it a loan to a better standard of a club that's at a better level, so top end championship as opposed to bottom end championship. I think that's going to be important for JB. So yeah, I'd loan the kid out. We bought JB for $5 million. That's not cheap, in terms of buying a teenager. When you're in the championship, so did we buy him whilst we were in the championship? I can't even remember now. But either way, $5 million for JB at the time, an unknown kid, seemed quite pricey. So for me, loan him out again, but to a higher end championship team, or again somewhere like Celtic. Get that little bit of European experience as well. I know I keep mentioning Celtic, but I think Celtic can be a really good. You'd be playing for a team that's going to win more often than they lose. They're going to be getting that experience of playing in the Champions League or European competition, which I think can be crucial to some of these Leeds players, some of these Leeds youngsters. So yeah, that's my take on that. Greenwood, again, a bit like Gallagher, they're the same kind of age. Greenwood is getting more experience now. He's playing quite regularly in the Championship. So maybe again, I'm going to say loan out, and that's on the basis if they offer him a new contract. I would doubt that they would. I think this is his last year. I personally think Greenwood will leave Leeds United in the summer. But if we were to keep him, I'd give him another loan, just because, like Gallagher, still young enough to improve. And again, like Rothway, he's got one hell of a free kick on him. You know what I mean? He's a good set piece player. So yeah, I still think there's a decent player in Greenwood. But again, like Gallagher, it's last chance saloon. The two of them need a loan where they're going to get that confidence, really improve, show that progression as a player with your ability, and see where you're at. That would be my take on that one. Christensen, sell. Simple as. He wasn't good enough in the Premier League with Leeds when we last had him. So simply put, sell him. Don't need to waste time on him. Luca Thomas. So all of these bottom four are all young kids that are currently out on loan. So quite simply put, Thomas has gone out on loan to Halifax, my hometown, which I'm really pleased about, because I hope he helps Halifax to get back in the Football League, which would be great. So I hope he has a great loan spell with Halifax. I believe he's coming to the end of his contract, and I think he is actually 20 now. He might not be a teenager anymore. I think he has just turned 20 this season. So for Luca Thomas, he needs to, he is at the end of his contract, so he might do what Jack Jenkins and Harvey Sutcliffe and Owen Bray have done, and he might just become an Halifax player full time, perhaps. As I say, there's a handful of former Leeds United players that are now first team players at Halifax Town. So for Luca, if we do keep him, if he does get another contract, then loan out. He needs game time. He ain't going to get it in the Premier League. Kean Coleman, similar situation, loan out again if we offer him another contract. But again, Coleman's been around the youth setup a while now, and I just feel maybe he gets that opportunity elsewhere, perhaps. Nothing against the likes of Thomas and Coleman. It just might be time for them to move on. Really depends on the development. Joe Richards. Now I think Joe Richards is a little younger, so he's gone to South Shields on loan, or he did do. I think that might have just been like a 1 month loan or something like that. I think it was October to November if I remember. So Richards, loan him out again. Simple as. That's if he still has time on his contract. And Conor Ferguson, again, same kind of thing. He's currently on loan at Farnsley, where Neil Redfern's just become manager. I don't know if Conor Ferguson's still at Farnsley, or if Leeds have recalled him, or if he's going out on loan elsewhere. But looks a useful fullback. You know, again, he's got time. He's got loads of time to improve. So again, I'd loan him out as well. And then one final player that I forgot to put on here, because he's not played a game yet, is Alex Cairns. Sorry, Alex. So Alex Cairns, he's currently the third choice keeper at the club. I think the fact that Darlow played against Harrogate proves that. Cairns hasn't had a look in at all. I mean, he's doing the Scott Carson role that Scotty Carson's doing at Man City, isn't he? He's the third choice goalkeeper. I mean, Cairns' experience as a first choice keeper has obviously been at League 1 and League 2 level. I mean, what do you do with that? You need three keepers. You need three senior keepers, because if one gets injured, or even worse, if two get injured, and it does happen at clubs, you need that depth. He's very good in the dressing room, as Alex Cairns. He's known as a bit of a joker. He's known as someone that can really pick the team up and keep the morale up and things like that. So what do you do with Alex Cairns? Do you keep him as third choice, or do you replace him with a different third choice keeper that has played in the Premier League before? Do you replace him with Scott Carson, who would be about 40-year-old? Do you give Scott Carson a season as third choice at Leeds? Would he even take that? I mean, he'd be getting a walloping wage for not playing. Scott Carson. He's richer than the average man, is Scott Carson, and he doesn't play any games. He averages about 1 game a season, if that. I thought Scott Carson would have played more seasons as a first choice goalkeeper. I really thought he was going to be a good keeper, and he was a decent keeper. He was a decent keeper. So Alex Cairns, I think, you know what? If we got into a situation where if we kept Meslier and Cairns and brought in a new second choice keeper and kept Cairns as the third choice, or when I say second choice, could be that if we brought in a world class goalkeeper and Meslier becomes second choice, which again could change things for Meslier, obviously. I think that maybe keeping Cairns would be seen as a bit weak. And if we did rely on bringing Cairns in, he's an alright goalkeeper, is Cairns. He's okay. And he's experienced at lower level. I'm going to say keeper's third choice. Just because then the club's not having to spend money on a player that's not going to play. You may as well keep Alex on. He's good in the dressing room, as I say. When you see him in the video clips with the rest of the squad, he's always having a laugh and a joke with them. He's always, he's got that good influence. He's got a bit like Gilavogi. He's got that influence. He's just got that vibe, with amongst the squad. And again, like a couple of these other players, he's not going to be on mega bucks. He's not going to be on a lot of wages. So and he came through Leeds' youth ranks as well, so he knows what it is to be a Leeds United player, and that goes a long way for me, does that? So yeah, keeper's third choice. So there we go. So there we have it, folks. That was a very long video, my word. So if you've got to the end of this one, well done, and thank you for watching right through to the end. But yeah, so that's the final shebang, as this is. So let's just have a quick rundown. How many players would we have available in the squad? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that's not bad in a sense, really, because that then means that in a squad of 25, which is what you're supposed to have in the Premier League, that means that we could afford to get 7 Premier League quality players, which I don't think that's unrealistic, for our first season back. I think if we're looking to have a season where we kick on and we ensure that we stay in the Premier League, start your squad rebuilding there, and get like the one that was borderline with this was possibly Rothwell. So if we did buy Rothwell and keep him as a squad player, and maybe I mean, you can't compare Rothwell with Gilavogi because they are 2 completely different type of midfielders. One's more advanced and attacking, the other one's more defensive. But again, it wouldn't matter that much if we didn't keep Gilavogi. It wouldn't matter that much if we didn't keep Rothwell. But then again, if we did keep Rothwell and didn't keep Gilavogi, for example, that's a possibility. So even if we did keep Rothwell and keep all of these others as well, if we did buy Rothwell, that's still 6 more players that we can afford to buy. To 6 Premier League quality players, and that I think that could do it. I think that could be enough to keep us up if we did that. And then when you think of it, then if Joseph has a fantastic loan spell, he then comes back as one of our main number 9s. At that point, we've had a chance to then see if Pirou can cut it in the Premier League. If Pirou can't, Matteo comes back. We then see who else we've signed as a main striker at that point, and then Joseph can compete against that, to be the club's number 9 at Premier League level. I think we need fullbacks. I really think we need to improve the fullbacks. That would be a big area. So out of the 6, if we were signing like 6 or 7 new players, position wise, I'd say a goalkeeper, a world class goalkeeper or a Premier League quality goalkeeper, someone that can really help Meslier develop. Because I do feel Meslier will be that Premier League goalkeeper eventually, but someone that can really push Meslier. I think the lack of competition for Melior's position is an issue for Melior's development as well, quite frankly. So yeah, it'd be a goalkeeper. It'd be both sides, full back. I think we'd need another backup defender. Maybe someone that really can challenge the likes of Strauch and Rodon. Maybe one more winger, definitely a 10. We need more competition for Brendan Aronson. And a number 9, a striker. massively, massively, massively needed. I think we're good on the wings. I think we're good in central midfield. I think those are the two positions that we've got. We've got quality and we've got depth. I don't think the other positions we've got as much depth. I think there's some quality there, but not enough depth. So that's what I do with those 6 or 7 signings that we'll be looking at. So there you have it, folks. That's my take on it. So which Leeds United players do you feel are Premier League ready for when we get promoted, all being well this season? Do please put your thoughts in the comments down below. Do please be respectful about it. This is just my opinion. Your opinions may differ. That's fine. There's no right or wrong answer. But yeah, I just ask that, you know, I'll be respectful to you, and I'll, you know, if some of the replies are interesting, I'll reply to them. You know, and yeah, let me know your thoughts. Even better, do your own full squad list, and tell me which ones you keep, sell, release, loan out. You know, tell me what you do with the squad. That'd be even better. But in the meantime, big thank you for all your support as always. Really appreciate it. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do please like the video. All that good stuff really does help to, you know, to get the channel out there. I'd like to get more subscribers if at all possible. You know, I do multi-stream to Facebook, YouTube, and Kick. So yeah, you know, do look out for West Yorkshire Retro Gamer on all 3 platforms. And I'll keep churning out the varied content. As I say, I do video game content, football content, and I've started just branching out on a couple of other little topics as well. I've just recently done a video ranking all of the Terminator films. You know, so you know, I'll start doing little videos on that kind of thing as well. Just varying things up a little bit. So in the meantime, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.